Hello, my name is Scott and I have lived independently now for 30 years with cerebral palsy. Thank you for visiting my channel Scott in the System. I have a podcast by the same name. I talk to mostly non-profit services for the disabled community. I also like to talk about being an entrepreneur affiliate marketer. If you would like to be on my podcast, you can email me at scott@scottinthesystem.com. Be sure to visit my website as at www.scottinthesystem.com. Please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel as well. Thank you for dropping by and have a blessed day.
Hello, this is Scott in the System, and today our guest is Tracy Strating, Assistive Technology Loan Program Director for MI-UCP, known as United Cerebral Palsy of Michigan. Thank you for coming today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here with you today, Scott.
And for our first question, how exactly did you get started at United Cerebral Palsy?
So I come from a background of financial, I come from a financial background. I started in banking and then credit management for manufacturers for several years. And then eventually I went through a health crisis and ended up with the help of disability. And then I got interested in disability rights and became affiliated with the Center for Independent Living, ended up moving to work there. And then I went through training when the loan fund was new, when this loan fund was just sort of getting started. I went to a training with Michigan Disability Rights Coalition and Option One at that time credit union and MI-UCP, that where I learned about a program called Building Your Financial Future, which was a 12-week financial class on managing funds at all levels, including those of us who were living on disability and not making a whole lot of money. And I kind of fell in love with the curriculum. I did it everywhere. I went all over the state and did it, and did classes for people who later told me they bought their first home after they moved out of the emergency shelter and took my class. So a lot of great wins with that and a lot of good feelings. And I volunteered for at that time the loan committee. So I rely, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but I rely on a loan committee of people with disabilities, folks from the disability advocacy community, or people who have lending background to help to make the decisions about whether or not to use the funds that the program has to guarantee loans for people that otherwise would not be able to get a loan. So I volunteered on that committee for a while at that time, some years ago. And in the meantime, I had several other jobs, but one of them I'd been working at a bank for several years and had moved up to the point of doing procedures for regulations, that kind of thing for that institution. And then I heard that this job had come open. And so I talked to my very supportive spouse and asked if we could get by on less, and went and applied for the job, because I feel like this job is something that feeds me and gives me a legacy. I think I can help to build something here that really is responsive and then includes people who've not been included in the past in all kinds of ways. And so I'm very attached to the mission of MI-UCP and the mission of the Michigan Assistive Technology Loan Funds, and also the Michigan Assistive Technology and what he does. That's how I got here.
What is the Assistive Technology Loan for?
So it's to purchase technology, which is any equipment or device that allows an individual with ability to move their And from the AT loan program, we take a very, very broad view of what is assistive technology. Because the trick about it is that assistive technology is different for one person than for another. So, what is AT for me? If I have a child with autism, say, um, and they take off, then a fence of my backyard could be considered assistive technology because it addresses the safety needs for that family or their child. But for someone else, a fence is just a nice thing to define their property, possibly, or keep their dog from getting away, right? So those kinds of things where we take a very, very broad view. It's all self-identified. We don't require any OT or PT or doctor statements about you requiring the AT. It's not like a medical program where you have to prove a lot of things. If you say, I need this AT, it works for me, that's good enough for me and for us as a program.
Okay. Um, Being I was looking for assistance, for my ramp situation. Now, would that be considered assisted technology?
Ramps are AT, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, it's obviously difficult to get in and out of the house.
Yep. We even now it's anything that's removable. So dentures, as an example, could
Right.
be considered assistive technology because they help you chew your food. It's removable. So it's assistive technology. There are all kinds of things that people would never think of that for a person could be assistive technology. I use a lot of alarms on my phone. As a matter of fact, my significant other sometimes says, you have so many alarms. But for me, it's assistive technology to keep me on task, to know when I have certain things that have to happen. Those kinds of things, I find those things very useful.
Yeah. So therefore, the lesson here for our viewers is assisted technology does not always just mean computer or electronically related devices. That's kind
Right.
of how I always perceived it, but it doesn't always have to be that.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. And for our next question, who can use the assisted technology loan?
So it would be any person with a disability or a family member of a person with a disability um, who wants to purchase assistive technology. So, and that also is self identified. We don't require any proof of disability. That's not our role either. So, it is, it could be something that somebody would never think of, very simple things sometimes, but also sometimes things that can be used for other things and still be useful. I'm trying to think of examples of some of the more interesting, everything from, home environment controls to, um, boy, there are just so many things, stair lifts. We've had somebody who wanted a covered scooter because they use their scooter year round as their transportation. Um, just lights on a scooter because they go to town council meetings and they at night and they ride with their power wheelchair through the city. So they needed headlights. Just all kinds of things that I'm always learning about new assistive technology from people who are looking to purchase it.
And for our last question, what are the requirements to qualify?
So the requirements are that a person we have a budget that we ask them to fill out as a part of it. And then if we're going to guarantee the loan through that program, we have several different funding programs, but we always collect a budget. And what we're looking for is that we don't get a person into a situation where they have a payment they can't afford. So it's not based on a certain credit score or other of the sort of lending, underwriting that criteria that a lot of credit unions and banks use for making lending decisions. It's more based on, can they afford the payment, and have they demonstrated or at least been able to discuss things that look like they might need to adjust in order to be able to afford the payment, those kinds of things.
Okay, so I would guess that would be like doing a asset to debt ratio to make sure they can afford to make that monthly payment
Yeah.
compared to their other monthly normal living expenses.
Right. Well, debt to income is a ratio that a lot of underwriters use. We use more because a lot of those traditional lending um, institutions have ratios they use, but they also have criteria to reach those ratios that's different than our criteria. So, I guess a way to explain it is, if somebody does their budget and then I ask them some questions about where they're spending their money, it's a very basic budget. And then I make sure that things kind of match up. And then I can look at what it actually costs them to live. Because, as an example, the credit union that we work with, that's our partner for the loan fund itself, MATL, they use a certain amount per person in the household, period. That's it. It doesn't matter what the person's um, monthly housing costs are or monthly payments are. They don't take any of that into consideration for the most part.
Oh,
So they relax their guidelines a little bit on our loan, but then sometimes they say no. And that's when we have to look to guarantee that. And we look more at what is the person actually living on. Because you and I both know that people with disabilities, at least in the 6 years that I was on disability, we get really good at living on a very small amount of money. And so we generally, the amount that of the threshold that the financial institution is looking for in terms of being above a certain threshold, they're starting at a number that's too high based on what most people with disabilities manage to get by on and live. So we also try to come with new things, like our new loan. One of the things we're looking at is a possible quarterly payment for somebody that has those extra quarterly checks, not extra, but it's outside their monthly budget. So a lot of times for me and other people I knew at that time, it's like a mad money situation in some ways, where that's the money I'd go to the movies with, is that quarterly check, whatever. I think that being able to make a payment for your AT from that money rather than trying to come up with it monthly when our budgets are so tight, right? So it's a great way to look at things differently, and that's what we try to do, is find ways to get, as Leslin says, our CEO, to get AT into the hands of people that need and want it.
okay. And how can people apply for this assistive technology loan?
Well, we have three loans. So we have the mini loan that we take applications for. We have the new loan that's rolling out in the next 2 weeks, called the Close the Equity Divide loan. And then there's the Michigan Assistive Technology loan itself. So that one, they apply through the credit union through a link at our website. You do it through the link at our website because it'll take you right to the correct loan. Otherwise, you may apply for the wrong loan. Or you can call me and I have a number as an accommodation where they can take that loan over the phone. And then the other two, they'll apply through us. there will be a new website rolled out in the next week or so where they'll be able to apply through that website or contact me so that I can assist them with application for those other two programs.
Okay. I guess when do we know the website name yet, or?
They'll be able to get to it through the MI-UCP.org website. They'll be able to go through that to click on it. I know that I should know the domain name, but I don't remember it offhand. But they will be able to even Google Michigan Assistive Technology Loan Funds, and that website should come up.
Okay.
Or go to my UCP, my MI-UCP, and they'll be able to click on a link to come over to the MATLF.
So if anybody has any questions about this, they can contact you.
Yes, please. They can also call me at 517-203-1200. And then when the computer system answers, push the number 2, and that rings right here on my desk.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming today and letting our viewers know about this. And I think it really helped, people understand, what they might consider assistive technology is more than just, as I said earlier, being computer related.
I think, though, we tend to get in our minds. I use a fold up power wheelchair as an example sometimes, depending on how far I have to walk. And I think that the AT you use, but it's fascinating to find out all the AT that's out there in the world. And it's exciting because there are new things all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you.
It was such a pleasure, Scott. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'll be happy to come when I have new things to talk about and share that with you again.
Hello, my name is Scott and I have lived independently now for 30 years with cerebral palsy. Thank you for visiting my channel Scott in the System. I have a podcast by the same name. I talk to mostly nonprofit services for the disabled community. I also like to talk about being an entrepreneur affiliate marketer. If you would like to be on my podcast, you can email me at scott@scottinthesystem.com. Be sure to visit my website as at www.scottinthesystem.com. Please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel as well. Thank you for dropping by and have a blessed day.